Francis Ngannou continues to fumble the bag. He's been booked for his next fight, and it's in boxing against Anthony Joshua, and which is pretty much a #1 contender fight for a shot at the lineal heavyweight championship. Obviously, I'm joking saying that Francis fumbled the bag because his transition to boxing has not only been nothing short of spectacular with the result in the Tyson Fury fight, but the financial implications are out of this world. You look at his UFC run, approximately $3 to $5 million in his entire UFC career. In his fight against Fury, he's reported to have made $10 million. Could be more than that. So probably more than double for one fight in boxing through Ngannou's entire championship UFC career. When you look at it and when you think about it, it's actually kind of mesmerizing how he's been able to do it. An MMA fighter to successfully transition to boxing and in his debut, arguably deserve a win over many regard the heavyweight lineal champ Tyson Fury. There's obviously an argument between who's better, between Usyk and Fury. We'll find out as they're fighting in the next couple months. So we'll know who's #1. But Fury and Joshua never faced off against one another. And I've always felt that Anthony Joshua would be a very difficult matchup for Tyson Fury. Francis Ngannou versus Anthony Joshua. It takes place in Saudi Arabia, March 9th. Riyadh season. Saudi is taking over boxing, and it's actually saving the sport, putting together fights that we want to see. Now, before Anthony Joshua's last fight, which was a couple weeks ago where he knocked out Otto Wallin, he was tentatively scheduled to fight Deontay Wilder later on this year. Instead, Wilder loses to Joseph Parker, but they needed a mega fight. Following Joshua's fight, the Otto Wallin matchup, there had been talk, right, of him fighting Hrogovic or Zhilei Zhang. It never made sense to me. I said Francis Ngannou has to be the guy. Sure enough, today we get the announcement that Ngannou versus Joshua is happening. I'm so stoked for the fight. I want to talk about my thoughts on the actual matchup and also kind of guess at how much Francis Ngannou is going to be taking home. So make sure you guys smash that like button. If you're new, subscribe. Anthony Joshua is a former heavyweight champion, an extremely high pedigree boxer who I would say is top 3 in the world right now. You can argue that he's one behind Usyk and Fury. I would say that, with Usyk and Fury being tied at 1, you can say Joshua's sitting at #2, but we really don't know. Like I said, I think that Anthony Joshua is a difficult matchup for Tyson Fury, especially the Fury that we saw against Ngannou. But I'm not trying to take anything away from Francis. He had a scintillating debut in professional boxing and is now booked for arguably a bigger fight, a surging Anthony Joshua in a #1 contender matchup that would set him up for either a rematch with Fury if he is victorious and Fury's victorious against Usyk, or a fight against Alexander Usyk, who at that point would be the true lineal heavyweight champion. So there's a ton on the line here, high stakes as it gets, a ton of money that he's going to be making. He's going to be taking home so much. He made $10 million reportedly for the Fury fight. I think Riyadh season is getting bigger. For me personally, because of how good Francis did in his professional boxing debut, I think the sophomore outing against Anthony Joshua is a bigger matchup than the fight against Tyson Fury. But how does it actually play out? Well, if you look at Anthony Joshua as of recent, he's really found his stride. He's on a 3-fight winning streak. He did have losses to Alexander Usyk. He lost to him twice, but rather competitive fights. Granted, he had a bit of a meltdown following their rematch, which he lost, seemed to put his faculties back together, mentally dial in, and he's looked really good. A couple weeks ago, knockout win over Otto Wallin. He made it look easy. And if you look at Otto Wallin and you dig back to his only other loss, he gave Tyson Fury, before Tyson Fury had, obviously fought Francis Ngannou or fought Deontay Wilder, he gave Fury the most difficult run, right? On that point of his career. That was the hardest fight for him. And it was easy work for Anthony Joshua. Fight before, he knocks out Robert Helenius, who ultimately I'd say is a, C+ tier journeyman type of fighter. And then before that, beat Jermaine Franklin. Many of you won't know him. And Franklin actually went to 12 rounds with Joshua. Now we have Francis Ngannou, who still is a wild card. He's going to have a bit of a size advantage over Anthony Joshua, though. Ngannou is going to be 2 inches shorter. He's probably going to be about 15, 20 pounds heavier when we actually get to the weigh-ins, because last time out, Ngannou, for his boxing debut, weighed about 271, and Joshua last time around 250. So I can see Joshua maybe keeping 5 extra pounds and Ngannou coming in around 270 to 275. So there could be a 20-pound weight advantage for Ngannou, which is interesting. Concern for Francis Ngannou when I actually look at this matchup. Anthony Joshua is a good technical boxer. He can outpoint fighters. He also has big punching power, and the difference between him and Fury is that punching power, and is that more Olympic boxing style. Digging back, Anthony Joshua was an Olympic gold medalist in boxing. Can you imagine Francis Ngannou comes out heavyweight, second fight in boxing, and beats an Olympic gold medalist and former world champion and Anthony Joshua, who beat Klitschko some years back in like 2017. I personally, though, don't see it, because Anthony Joshua will not be overlooking Francis Ngannou, something that Tyson Fury, I believe, did, and Fury in general. I think he might be a little bit more worn down at this point of his career. Now, again, I'm not trying to take anything away from Francis Ngannou. Fury, without a training camp, eating a pint of ice cream before the fight, was supposed to be able to walk through Francis Ngannou and knock him out. Not only was it not supposed to be any bit competitive, I don't think that it should have gone past 7 rounds. If you're looking at what boxing is and the level that's held and expected from a heavyweight champion, and then for an MMA champ to come over and not only go the distance, drop Tyson Fury, and arguably, in a lot of people's minds, win the fight. This matchup here, though, I think is more difficult. Anthony Joshua is a much better athlete than Tyson Fury. He's a much harder puncher than Tyson Fury, and I think technically he might be more primed. He's a more well-conditioned athlete, right? The Fury versus Ngannou fight, in a sense, was like, oh, it's the bodybuilder versus the chubby boxer. We got two guys that I would say, as far as physical frames go, are towards the excellent level. It really doesn't get much better in combat sport than the frames that they're bringing and that the athleticism that they both have. I think that Anthony Joshua, in a sense, fights like a more seasoned version of Francis Ngannou in boxing. Someone like Ngannou, who, if from the start he would have just specialized in boxing, I can see a lot of similarities to his game like a Joshua. Now, Ngannou does have a decent jab. He does have powerful hooks. His wide shots are extremely dangerous. I'm telling you, Anthony Joshua is not going to come into this fight and say, oh, I'm going to knock this guy out in 3 rounds. I'm going to walk through him. He's looking at arguably the #1 guy in boxing. Like, it's weird to say with Ngannou only having 1 pro boxing bout and on paper being 0-1. But if that decision goes to him, he's the #1 guy in boxing right now at heavyweight. He's the baddest heavyweight boxer on the planet. I think Anthony Joshua's calculated here. He can be a technician for the most part when needs to be, but knows when to step on the gas and get a little bit wild. With an Ngannou, you need to limit how much you get crazy on him, because he can catch you and he will make you pay. But I believe Anthony Joshua is going to be calculated in this fight. I can see Anthony Joshua stinging Francis Ngannou, and I do believe that could limit Ngannou's output. I also think Joshua is going to be sticking him with a jab, and I won't be surprised if on the inside, Anthony Joshua can match the physical strength, or at least much more competitively match it than Tyson Fury was able to do. So my official prediction, how I'm seeing this fight play out, I think we're going to see Anthony Joshua get a win over Francis Ngannou. And I know many will be disappointed. I know the MMA fans want to ride with Team Ngannou through and through. Now, as far as boxing goes, obviously MMA is my #1, but if there's a fighter that I've always enjoyed watching, it was Anthony Joshua. I watched him on the come up through his boxing run when I was young, when I was doing boxing myself, and I believe that I see this fight playing out kind of competitive, right? Rounds that go back and forth, but Joshua throughout most of it leading the dance. I don't think he finishes Francis. I think that's going to be hard to do. I think Francis's chin is steel. I think his conditioning is out of this world. But I think what it's going to come down to, when you have 2 absolute specimens against one another is going to be the technical boxing skill and boxing IQ, where Anthony Joshua, without a doubt, has an advantage over Francis Ngannou. I'm going Joshua. I will predict he wins a decision. We've seen Joshua fight very cautious before. Dig back to the Andy Ruiz rematch, and he won every round. Now, you can say, oh, he fought scared in that fight. Ruiz was able to knock him out prior, and people will go back and say, wait, Ruiz knocked him out. Ngannou hits way harder than Ruiz. Ruiz is a fat heavyweight. Anthony Joshua overlooked Ruiz at that point of his career, for sure. And he's gone distance with Alexander Usyk, who is a spectacular boxer. I think Anthony Joshua will avoid Francis's kill shots, and if he is caught clean, I do think his durability is there. I do think his conditioning comes into play, and he'll be able to absorb Francis Ngannou's best shots. I also think Ngannou, for the most part, absorbs the best shots from Anthony Joshua too. Where I think Ngannou could get hurt is in the later rounds. I think he could get hurt by a straight shot. Anthony Joshua does have some wicked power in his straights, and I think he could counter Francis and put him down. I have a hard time seeing Francis Ngannou getting sparked and shut out. I think he's going to give it hell in his second boxing appearance. I do think he's going to ultimately lose once again, but this time I think it's going to be a fair loss, a true loss. But it definitely doesn't take much away from how amazing Francis Ngannou's transition to boxing has been. To go out there and nearly beat Tyson Fury, arguably beat Fury, and then to even be competitive against Anthony Joshua, who I think is primed right now in a #1 contender fight, and make more money than he's ever made before. He'll probably make a little extra than he made last time out, again, which is already double his UFC earnings. This is the best decision Francis could have ever made. Now, if he goes out there and knocks Anthony Joshua out and proves me wrong, God bless him. I'd love to see it. For the spectacular story of Ngannou, he beats Joshua, that'd be amazing. But how good Joshua's looking right now, I think he's found his stride. I think he's too much. I got to go with the boxer here. I love Francis Ngannou. I love how much money he's been able to make and how he shut up everybody. He's proved every naysayer way wrong. But I do think he meets his match in this fight. I'm going Anthony Joshua for the win. Definitely in the comments, guys, let me know. Do you agree with my prediction? Do you see Anthony Joshua as the winner? Do you think Francis Ngannou takes it home? I know the MMA base is watching, and I know you guys are going to be backing Ngannou. And you know what? As a fan, I would love to see it. I really like Anthony Joshua a lot, though. So may the best man win. But prediction-wise, my mind is saying we got to go Joshua. Expect Anthony Joshua to be a betting favorite, too. I don't think it's going to be crazy wide like the Fury and Ngannou fight was, but expect Joshua to at the very least be in the -200, maybe even -300 range here. And I'm going to go with the technician. I'm going to go with the boxer. I'm going to go with Anthony Joshua. And I think he fights the winner of Fury versus Usyk in what would be a high stakes and incredible fight. Major news, had to drop a video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Turn the post notifications on and make sure to share the video as well. If you really enjoyed the content, but you got nothing to say in those comments, at least drop a W in the chat to boost the algorithm for your boy. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.